In 1985, Bruce Springsteen, Miles Davis, Bob Dylan, and 50 other artists recorded a song with a single message: boycott a casino resort in South Africa. The song was called I Ain't Gonna Play Sun City. It became an anthem of the anti-apartheid movement, played on radio stations worldwide. And the man who built that casino, he didn't just survive the international condemnation. He went on to build a $3.8 billion empire spanning 3 continents. This is the story of Sol Kerzner, the African casino king who bent governments, bribed politicians, married Miss World, lost his heir in a helicopter crash, and still managed to transform the hospitality industry forever before losing almost everything. Sol was the son of Ukrainian immigrants who settled in one of Johannesburg's poorest neighborhoods in 1935. His parents sold fruit and vegetables from a cart before scraping together enough money to open a tiny 15-room guest house in Durban called the Menorah. At school, Sol was bullied relentlessly for being Jewish. Short and stocky, he learned to fight back the only way he could. He took up boxing and became so good that by the time he graduated from university with an accounting degree, he was the varsity welterweight champion. That fighting spirit would define everything that came next. In 1962, at just 26 years old, Kerzner quit his accounting job and bought a rundown hotel called Astra for almost nothing. He transformed it by adding something revolutionary for South Africa: a dinner club with dancing. 2 years later, he did what everyone said was impossible. He built South Africa's first 5-star hotel on a deserted stretch of coastline, naming it the Beverly Hills, after the glamorous Los Angeles suburb. Within a year, it was the most famous hotel in the country, but Kerzner wasn't satisfied with merely running hotels. He wanted to create something that had never existed in Africa before. In 1978, Kerzner took a helicopter ride over a dormant volcano crater in the middle of nowhere, about 2 hours north of Johannesburg. What he saw was worthless scrubland in a place called Bophuthatswana, one of apartheid South Africa's so-called independent homelands. These Bantustans were fake countries the white government had created to strip black South Africans of their citizenship. They were recognized by no other nation on earth. But Kerzner saw something else entirely. Because these fake countries had one thing mainland South Africa did not: they could legalize gambling. What Kerzner built there defied imagination. Sun City opened in December 1979, with 4 hotels, a man-made lake, 2 championship golf courses, a 6,000-seat entertainment arena, and over 1 million hand-planted trees. On opening weekend, 15,000 people crammed through the gates. The casinos offered gambling. The theaters showed topless reviews. And most shockingly for apartheid-era South Africa, all races were welcome to mix freely. Sun City became the only place in the country where black and white South Africans could legally drink at the same bar. Now here is where it gets complicated. While the resort was a racial oasis inside, its very existence propped up the apartheid system's fiction of independent homelands. The United Nations had imposed cultural boycotts on South Africa. Most international artists refused to perform there, but Kerzner waved massive paychecks, and stars like Frank Sinatra, Queen, Elton John, Rod Stewart, and even Michael Jackson took the money and played Sun City anyway. When Queen performed there in 1984, the backlash was so severe that the band was fined by the British Musicians Union and added to a United Nations cultural blacklist. 1 year later, Stephen Van Zandt organized Artists United Against Apartheid to record Sun City, the protest anthem that turned Kerzner's playground into an international symbol of everything wrong with the regime. But Kerzner kept building. In 1992, he opened the Palace of the Lost City, a $300 million fantasy hotel built around 25 hectares of artificial jungle, designed to look like the ruins of an ancient African civilization. 5,000 workers completed the entire project in just 28 months. The lobby ceiling was painted to rival the Sistine Chapel. Meanwhile, the authorities were closing in. In 1989, Kerzner admitted to a judicial commission that he had paid 2 million rand in bribes to the chief minister of another homeland called Transkei in exchange for exclusive casino licenses. He called it foolish and stupid. The case dragged on for years, until the key witness conveniently died and charges were dropped in 1997. But by then, Kerzner had already fled South Africa for London, selling off his local interests and looking for new continents to conquer. And conquer he did. In 1994, Kerzner bought a bankrupt resort on Paradise Island in the Bahamas from entertainment mogul Merv Griffin. He transformed it into Atlantis, a mythological fantasy resort with the world's largest man-made marine habitat, 11 million gallons of water, and the Caribbean's biggest casino. The project eventually cost over $1.7 billion. In 1996, he opened Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, built on Native American reservation land, another jurisdiction where gambling laws did not apply, just like the Bantustans back home. The parallels were impossible to ignore. By 2006, Kerzner controlled an empire worth nearly $4 billion. His son Butch, a Stanford MBA, was running day-to-day operations and negotiating massive deals in Dubai and Singapore. The company went private in a leveraged buyout worth $3.8 billion. The future seemed limitless. Then, on October 11th, 2006, Butch Kerzner's helicopter crashed into a building on the Dominican Republic's north coast. He had been scouting sites for a new resort. He was 42 years old, with a wife and 2 young children. Investigators said the tail section may have separated in mid-flight. For Sol Kerzner, it was the cruelest irony. He had discovered Sun City from a helicopter. His son died in one. The company would never become a family business again. 2 years later, the global financial crisis hit. Tourism collapsed. Kerzner International, loaded with debt from the buyout, began hemorrhaging money. The Atlantis Bahamas alone owed $2.6 billion. By 2012, Kerzner had surrendered ownership of his flagship properties to creditors in exchange for debt forgiveness, retaining only management contracts. The man who built an empire was reduced to running other people's hotels. He spent his final years at a family estate near Cape Town, occasionally emerging for industry awards and charity events. Nelson Mandela, who had asked Kerzner to organize his presidential inauguration in 1994, once said of him, "He makes a difference everywhere he goes." Sol Kerzner died of cancer in March 2020 at 84 years old. He left behind a legacy that's almost impossible to judge. He created resorts that employed tens of thousands and transformed tourism in multiple countries. He also profited from apartheid, bribed politicians, and built an empire on legal loopholes that existed precisely because of injustice. The Beverly Hills Hotel he built in 1964 is still standing. So is Sun City, which now operates as a legitimate resort in democratic South Africa. Atlantis still draws millions of tourists to the Bahamas. The Mohegan Sun is still one of America's largest casinos, but none of them bear his name anymore. If you found this story fascinating, hit subscribe for more tales of the moguls who built, bent, and sometimes broke the rules to reshape our world.